So it's been a little too long since I last dealt out some really cool Blu-ray news for you guys. So how about some juicy stuff from Scream Factory, the Vestron Video Collector Series, and the Criterion Collection on today's Blu-ray news. So first up today is the long-awaited announcement of the Christopher Nolan Ultra High Definition 4K Collection, which will include The Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and the entire Dark Knight trilogy, which will also be available in its own separate box set as well, but both the Nolan Collection and Dark Knight trilogy sets will include a special bonus disc of additional content, special features, and all this drops on December 19th for that nice little last-minute holiday gift giving. And all these included in the box set will also be available separately, so you've got every opportunity to grab this stuff in any configuration that you want. And this has all been remastered by Christopher Nolan in 4K, brand new transfers, all this stuff. Just going to be anyone who loves Christopher Nolan films and has this 4K setup and everything with the 4K Blu-ray player, the 4K TV, the high dynamic range. This is going to be the stuff that you're going to be so enthusiastic to delve into, because Nolan is so particular about how his films are seen and heard and presented that you can absolutely guarantee that these are going to be absolutely fantastic transfers and experiences to have in your own home theater. It's a wonderful type of thing that's been rumored for a while, and it's nice that it's finally hitting just before Christmas hits. So guys, get it on your list now. Pre-order that stuff right away, because I'm sure it's going to be a hot item. But updating a little bit of something here that's been going on for months and months about a release date that really can't find a concrete place is that the remastered 4K version of Terminator 2 Judgment Day has brand new release dates all over again, because it keeps moving up on the schedule all over the place, delays and delays. And apparently Studio Canal in the UK is settled on a December 4th release date for the 4K Blu-ray and the 2D and 3D Blu-rays that are being released over there. But in the United States, it's being released on December 26th, just after Christmas, so a little bit of late gift giving there. But hopefully this is going to be concrete and they finally figured out all the things they wanted to figure out here. And apparently just in the US, we're getting only the 4K Blu-ray. We're not getting the 3D version whatsoever. It seems like hopefully maybe there'll be some region-free stuff if you want to grab it from UK and region B or whatnot. So we'll see how things go when the discs finally arrive and get some information about all this stuff. But it seems like they're hopefully finally getting this concreted, but the endoskeleton arm special gift set and whatnot has no definite release date now. They say it's still going to arrive, but it's going to be a later date. There's been all types of problems with this entire release. It keeps being pushed back and pushed back for reasons unknown. Some people say that maybe James Cameron wasn't entirely happy with some parts of the remastering or restoration. It's been a wild ride of this whole thing. People just want to get this because I saw the 3D version in the theater. I was very much blown away by the 3D conversion, the clarity of the 4K remastering. I really want to get this, even though I've owned so many versions of this already. But to see it the best way it possibly can be, I would love to see that version on home video for myself. And then updating on another thing I reported on the last update was that the Russell Mulcahy film Razorback, being released by Australian company Umbrella Entertainment, which is usually region-free stuff, they did push back the release date from this month all the way to February of next year. But that was to make the entire new release of this thing, the new remaster, the new content that they're making, come to its fruition and everything. And they're really putting a lot into this. Some that's recycled from their previous release, which has some problems with its transfer and whatnot. But they're porting over the old Russell Mulcahy and Shane Armstrong commentary and some other audio interviews and stuff like that, and some featurettes. But they're also including a VHS cut of the film. This is pretty much like an alternate version with extended gory scenes and whatnot. So it's kind of like this extended unrated cut, which apparently only exists as a VHS master at this point in time, but they're including that on this whole thing and throwing in some other nice little things and remastering the whole film in its proper theatrical version in 4K. So they're putting a full effort into this remastering and this entire release to kind of rectify some things people felt were not up to snuff on the previous version. So I'm very excited to see this film and get my hands on this, and hopefully February sticks this time and they'll get this thing out, and I'll definitely be able to get it on probably deepdiscount.com or maybe a few other places. But if you're in the US, you can definitely pick up a lot of umbrella releases on deepdiscount.com and a few other little places here and there. But moving on to a little bit of Vestron Video Collector Series stuff, which has been a little bit quiet for the last couple months, and people have been kind of waiting maybe a little bit impatiently for some new news about the line continuing to have some life in it. And the class of 1999 has finally gotten renounced for the line and everything, going a nice remastering job of this whole thing with a new audio commentary from the producer and director Mark L. Lester, some interviews with him and the producer of the film, Eugene Mazzola, and a whole lot of interesting stuff with a whole bunch of interviews, trailers and TV spots, all these different things. And for what I've seen of the Vestron video line, they've done a fantastic job with these things. Return of the Living Dead 3, Chopping Ball, the Warlock Collection. They've done some really nice work to make these films preserved in a certain way, not going through a lot of tinkering with the transfers and whatnot. They look very pristine and very much like they should, so I don't expect anything less from this release of the class of 1999, this sort of sci-fi horror film from the 80s and whatnot. It's something I've never seen, but I've heard so many things a little bit here and there about it over the years. I'm sure it's probably someone will definitely recommend me seeing in the comments section here. But they also announced the release of the film Gothic from filmmaker Ken Russell, and this whole thing is going to include new audio commentary with Lissy Russell and film historian Matthew Malia, along with an isolated soundtrack with interview with composer Thomas Dolby, new featurettes including interview with Julian Sands from the Warlock Collection as well. So it's like there's a whole bunch of new featurettes and all trailers and TV spots, stuff like that. Still gallery, so it's like they're really putting a lot into this and getting interviews with the cinematographer, a whole bunch of people involved in this whole thing. So again, Vestron Video is really pumping the adrenaline into this line to give it as much as they can. Having all these titles been sitting around in the Lionsgate catalog for a long time, kind of gaining a lot of dust and whatnot, and kind of polishing them off, giving you nice new transfers, and giving it just a very, very special treatment to all these things. Like, it's a wonderful line that has a lot of enthusiasm behind it, and I'm very much pleased to see these titles, these little cult films and whatnot, just get a little due and justice into the HD digital age and everything. So that's a wonderful type of thing. And another film, which is coming from Scream Factory, is Hell Night, getting Collector's Series Edition release, which did get pushed back to January 2nd, but that was because they really wanted to put in the extra effort to get additional interviews and featurettes produced and put the extra effort into the remastering process from the archival print. They were able to dig up from somewhere and really make that 4K remaster pop out as good as it possibly could. So they're definitely putting in so much effort into this to make sure the fans will be very much pleased with this old Linda Blair, nice little horror film from the early 80s and everything, where they do have a new interview with the cast, including Linda Blair, a whole bunch of original theatrical trailers and TV spots, an old commentary track, which includes Linda Blair and producer Irwin Yablans, a whole bunch of people, and a whole ton of new featurettes on this whole thing, interviewing everyone they possibly could between makeup effects artists, cast and crew, a whole bunch of different people involved with the film. They're really taking this nice little small film that's been out of print for so many years on DVD and just giving it as much of a premium treatment as possible. It was like, fans of this film are going to be undoubtedly pleased with how this is turning out. So January 2nd, you'll be able to pick this up from Scream Factory and everything. Well, let's move on to a little bit different type of fare here with the Criterion Collection announcing some really nice titles recently, including one that's got a little bit of controversy because it's such a mainstream type of film, but certainly going to bake them a good amount of money, with The Breakfast Club from John Hughes. So they're taking this little film from 1985, this wonderful teen drama comedy type of film that people have looked back on and connected with all these different generations that have gone by, doing a nice 4K remaster, porting over all the featurettes, including the Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson commentary, and a bunch of little featurettes here and there, digging up some old interviews as such with like Molly Ringwald and Ellie Sheedy, a little bit of John Hughes action in the old radio interviews they've been able to dig up here and there, and just a whole ton of stuff. They're going to put a lot of effort in this whole thing, giving you a nice DTS 5.1 alternate audio track, including the original theatrical monorail track, and just putting a lot of effort in this. I mean, it's the Criterion Collection. Of course, they're going to put all the effort in the world into this. That's why they have the reputation that they have. But just like, kind of an interesting thing on January 2nd as well. You can pick this up from Criterion Collection. And just like, it's such a nice little film. Not my favorite John Hughes film. I definitely grew up on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But it is a good film that has a lot of interesting things that just remains relevant to people generation after generation, as these stereotypical archetypes of teenagers and whatnot kind of connect and have these different stories and interactions and this dynamic of sorts. It's such a nice little thing here in sorts, but kind of interesting they're going for this type of film, but they always have to have a little bit of something that's going to appeal to the mainstream audience to kind of get a little more money to fund the little kind of passion projects they want to get, the little art house type of stuff, the little obscure films here and there they really kind of put that treatment into. So gotta make the big bucks somewhere, so give a little attention to something like this every so often. So not the first time they kind of done this. They've done The Rock and Armageddon, and did on RoboCop and everything, so they've done some mainstream type of films, so don't take this too harshly towards them or anything, guys. But January 2nd, Criterion Collection, which is not the only stuff from the Criterion Collection that's had an announcement lately that's very interesting, including George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which is a public domain film, but the fact of the matter is that this thing's been released ungodly amounts of times because it is in the public domain. No one holds a copyright on it. But the fact of the matter is, Criterion Collection has reached out, had George A. Romero, before he passed away, be involved in the approval process of the transfer of this film. It's a really nice thing to see that this is probably the last little mark George A. Romero has on this film and his legacy of sorts. And in addition to the 4K restoration of the film itself, the original monorail soundtrack has also been restored, supervised by George Romero and Gary R. Striner, and an unseen workprint version of the film called Night of Anubis is also being included here, as well as unseen 16mm dailies, a new featurette including interviews from Guillermo del Toro, Frank Darabont, and Robert Rodriguez, as well as a host of new interviews, new featurettes, old 1994 audio commentaries, including people with the cast and crew of the film, and just tons of stuff. Again, it's Criterion Collection taking on an absolute horror classic that's been influential for decades and decades, practically spawned an entire genre of horror films. It's definitely getting the absolute premier treatment, absolutely. And like, you can pick up a million copies of Night of the Living Dead. Has been released on every format imaginable. You can get some cheapo little thing that's being released from Mill Creek. It's probably the same old transfer you've probably seen 100 times, or other places here and there, but undoubtedly this is going to be the definitive look of Night of the Living Dead, having George Romero involved in one of his last little acts of artistic endeavors or whatnot to get this into the Criterion Collection, have them put their stamp of approval on this classic film. It's absolutely going to be a jam-packed set, released on February 13th. If you're a horror fan, I can't imagine you not being interested to really check this out and find out more about this release as we get closer to release date and see some reviews of just how well this is going to be stacking up to every other version that's put out there. It's going to blow it away. And of course, something that's been in the Criterion Collection before on a previous format is The Silence of the Lambs, also being released on February 13th. It's been released previously on DVD and maybe even Laserdisc as well. I'm not entirely certain, but probably too. And again, 4K digital restoration of this film, approved by the film's cinematographer, including some nice DTS HD master surround sound, and just porting over all those nice featurettes, the stuff they've had licensed for way back when, with wonderful commentaries, including Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Demme, all these things, and brand new interviews here and there, and new featurettes, and all this type of stuff. It's like full archival depth of this thing. It's just absolutely gonna be anyone who loves Silence of the Lambs. I'm much more the Manhunter type of guy, if you saw my review back in May, but people who love Silence of the Lambs love this film absolutely positively. You can't pass this up. Not at all, because it's going to have every little thing you probably could ever want in one little package, restored completely, and having some nice little things sprinkled in throughout the entire bonus features of this entire release. You can't go wrong with this. Again, Criterion Collection bringing this back into its entire midst from many years ago. Got my sister the Criterion Collection release, I think. I got her one DVD of it one way or another. It's probably the Criterion one, but regardless of that, I know this is a long time coming. Nice that they're bringing it back into their midst, back into the licenses and everything, giving it that type of treatment, and just giving fans of this film another wonderful thing to put up on their shelves and enjoy time and time again. This Academy Award-winning film. You can't ask for anything more from Criterion Collection to give these types of films this type of attention and continue to put them up on a pedestal as very special, very prized, and very high priced as well. But look out for those Barnes & Noble sales that are going on kind of right now. Maybe probably not when February comes around, but they'll come around again. They have them about every other 6 months or so. So guys, regardless of that, that's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to put on your little Amazon wish list here and there. And like hell, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. Just post your comments about what you are thoroughly excited for, what's going up on your wish list, and what do you think about some of these things like Silence of the Lambs or Night of the Living Dead getting this type of treatment from Criterion. It's a lot of good stuff, ranging all over the place, but a lot of it is really good stuff. So guys, I'll see you around really soon. Thanks for sticking around, and hope you enjoyed this mega-sized, overdue Blu-ray news video. So, had to get all this stuff packed in here somehow and not leave any stone unturned. So guys, that's what I got. I'll take care of you, and see you soon. So, see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.